It's May 3rd, and it's Richard. My fiberglass has dried well overnight, and right now I'm proceeding to take the flanges off of it and remove it, and the glass has not stuck to the piece. You can see it's real going to come right apart, but my problem is I have my flange screws through the sauna tube, and I had made a little block, and the little block has a pre-drilled hole in it, and when I put my screws through, I put Elmer's glue on the block to hold the block, and some of the Elmer's glue got onto the threads of the screw, of course, and now I can't back those 3 screws out. And the key secret to this particular cardboard is to not to rough it up or sand it, leave it like it is, as smooth as possible. You might want to take the wax that we use here at the shop, and it's the only wax to use. If you're going to use any kind of wax, we've tried them all, is this particular brand, and it's kind of a blue looking hue to it, and this wax is to wax this unbelievable amount of wax on this particular sauna tube once I'm done with it, because that paper soaks all the wax in. And then I somewhat wipe the wax off with a rag and try and get it off. I'm not trying to make a very smooth mold in this particular instance. I'll work the master mold out and sand that internally down, which is a little bit more work. But I don't want to sand the paper because the paper has these little seams, and once you break that seam, it roughs that all up, and the paper sticks up, then it will stick to the fiberglass. So key secret is to wax, 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 and put it on very thick, and it's going to soak it into the paper, and use many coats on it. If you put 8-10 coats on this, then the very final coat you put on, leave it on. Don't wipe it off. Just leave that blue hue with it, and you'll find that in these paper molds, it will release very easily. You can see there's no really, other than my screws holding the flange, that's all loose. It will just drop right off of here, which will make it easier for your flange in the removal process of that. And that's what I've learned from Frank Bragg's. And Sprague's Composites, who you want to go to. And you can always call him to ask him questions, because he's a genius with this stuff, and he's taught me a lot. I know I have an FA license, know a lot about electronics, aviation, but when it comes to making molds and stuff like that, the last 3 years I've learned a lot with Frank. He knows all kinds of oddball stuff to do. He's a very, very smart man. And there's few and far in between like that, people you really meet that are very good machinists, technicians with this. And I'm like a sponge. I always like to suck up all the knowledge that I can. And a lot of times Frank will let you make a mistake, and that's the only way you're going to learn, is to make a mistake and to go back over with him what you've done wrong in the procedure. And a lot of this fiberglass stuff is the procedure and how the basic fiberglass needs to go in what context, in what way that it needs to be. And they call it a lamination schedule, and that's so important to have that down pat. This has no lamination schedule because it's just a rough built out mold I'm making to pull apart. But when Frank makes the extra part to go in the field, he'll have a lamination schedule he'll figure out, and that's the thickness and the way each layer goes. And that's very critical for structural strength with this fiberglass and durability. All right, as I get it apart, I'll make more video.